and welcome to the View from ADB 2017. We're in Yokohama, Japan, and today I'm joined by the Indonesian Finance Minister, Sri Mulyani Indrawati. Thank you so much for joining us.
My pleasure.
So we were just sitting on the same panel discussing the transition from middle to high income status for Asian economies. Indonesia at the moment sits in the lower middle income bracket. What are the risks potentially that you think Indonesia might run into when it looks to move towards high income, in terms of also avoiding the so-called middle income trap?
Well, to become in a higher middle income country, you definitely require a human capital which is much more productive. So investment in human capital, especially on education and health, to make sure that Indonesia with the young population is going to be able to have a labor force which is productive and good quality, I think is going to be important. Second one, to become a high income country, you really need to have a good policy. All good policy in terms of the macroeconomic, prudential, fiscal policy, the deficit which is contained, debt policy of the government, and then central bank which is independent, low inflation rate, flexible exchange rate, and openness is going to be very critical. Third is very important for the government as an institution is going to be able to define their appropriate role when the economy is developing from middle into become a high income. You are not going to intervene and distorting market too much, but you become facilitator for the economy, especially private sector, to be able to play their maximum capacity to create innovation, to open the new market, to introduce a new idea. I think that is going to be very important for Indonesia. But other than that, government role is very important because Indonesia is a huge country geographically as well as in terms of population. We have problem of disparity across region. So infrastructure is going to be very important.
And that is a priority in your budget?
That is the priority of on the budget as well as in terms of our ability to support for more private sector to finance the need of the infrastructure, which is very, very high.
And another point of the middle income question is that a lot of studies find that those countries that did manage to leap to high income had a very diverse set of exports. Now, Indonesia is still quite heavily reliant on commodities exports. I think it's above half of the exports are still commodities. So how is this a problem for you? Does it worry you? How could you address this?
Well, in the past, if you look at the 70 or 90, 70, 80s, with Indonesia is actually not really dependent on a commodity-based export, but more on a labor intensive. At that time, it's because we make quite a lot of labor reform and then also creating what you call it industrial zone, simplifying the bureaucracy that it's then attracting many of the foreign direct investment, especially on the manufacturing sector. Then we have the commodity boom after the financial crisis. Then it's create more distortion and dependency. I think for Indonesia, meaning that we have the track record and now the government focusing on how we are going to improve the competitiveness. That's why President is asking to invest in the infrastructure. We are opening many industrial zones to simplify the bureaucracy, simplify permit, or in this case, even eliminating many of the bureaucracy hurdle. And also the most important, we are investing in the human capital and attracting more foreign investment as well as domestic investment to invest in Indonesia. I think labor market is going to be also important and labor policy. Currently, many of the labor policy has been delegated to the local level, especially on the wage decision. And that is going to be something that will create more competition and tension across provincial area in Indonesia. But definitely improving of the wage should be followed by the improvement in the productivity of the labor. That will make Indonesia have the attractiveness on the manufacturing that then allow to have diversify what you call it commodity exporter in Indonesia.
And finally, just recently, we've seen very important events politically in Indonesia. There's been the Jakarta governor vote. It looks like the, I guess, candidate opposing the party of the president, Widodo, is probably going to win. Many pundits say that this could be a bit of a hiccup in what was otherwise actually a very exciting moment for Indonesia, policy-wise. This might be a bit harder to push through the policy reforms that the government wants. What do you respond to that? What kind of reaction did you have to that event?
Well, the Indonesian democracy has been also for the local government. Direct election has been done in many cycle of election. It's been like 3 cycle of election in which the president party is not necessarily identical to the local government party in this case, whether at the provincial level or a kabupaten, that is the district level. There is a maturity of the democracy of the relationship between local government and central government. There is also a certainty regarding the fiscal transfer. There is also a commitment which is much stronger now, that in order for any region to be able to achieve a progress, you really have to work alongside, or in this case align well with the national government. So I really don't see this as a reason for what you call it the cooperation or alignment or coordination, because this is what is already happening. I don't think that in this case, because Indonesia is not only Jakarta,
Sure,
and we have quite a lot of pilkada, that is the local election in which many of parties actually have elected their leaders, which is, I think, it's normal.
I guess pundits pinpoint to the Jakarta governor because many political analysts see it almost as the second most important office in the country, in a way.
Well, yeah, President Yudhoyono, in the past, the party is not coming from the President Yudhoyono on a Jakarta level. President Jokowi in this case has a different start with what you call, because he was the governor of Jakarta. But I think when put it within the general relationship, of course, Jakarta being the capital of Indonesia have much visibility, not only nationally but also internationally. But it's actually it doesn't what you call it. It tells quite a lot about any other what you call it relationship between national government and local government. So I really don't see this. Maybe people will project it in 2019 as a presidential election, but as in any cycle of election, in president election, you have a lot of candidates, you have a good peaceful election, and people will accept whatever the result. So I'm sure what we actually very grateful is this election has been very safe and peaceful. People, of course, some disappointed, some satisfied, but we are going to move on. We are going to continue having this kind of democracy, which is capturing and channeling the people aspiration, and at the same time we are going to work for the good of the people with the accountability which is already being regulated in our law. So it's a normal process.
Well, thank you very much for your time and good luck with all your work.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.